Hello, you are welcome back to Tuntum Network. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Cyrus and I'm happy to have you here. Thank you for making this podcast relevant. Without you, I couldn't have done this. In today's episode, I want us to take a look at the real estate industry in Africa. And I sort of zeroed it down to 4 particular African countries: Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria. We are looking at how the real estate industry has impacted development and how pricing has come along from the last 20 years till now. Please stick and stay with me. There is so much I'm going to unpack. Perhaps this might be the information you would need in order to know your next move. Let's get to this. You see, property companies in the last 2 decades have sprung almost everywhere in these 4 African countries, to the point where it has stretched most of our big cities to incorporate nearby towns. If you look at it critically, most of our nearby towns have now been incorporated into the big cities because of the expansion of our real estate industry. And I think that is a good thing. However, real estate and property prices in these countries have steadily been rising. And it has gotten to the point where some of the names they actually market to us is actually corny or ironic compared to the amount of money that is tagged to it. Look at a name like affordable homes, budget homes, affordable luxury, and all that. And then you walk into the actual place and you find out that you were actually sold a piece of land in a location that you actually want and a community with all the amenities that you also prefer. So if you look at your property critically, you'll find out that normally it is about a quarter of the price sold to you that was actually used in building the building itself. Take a look at these numbers with me. In looking at the pricing comparison among these 4 countries, I did this research with 3 things in mind: location, room numbers, and build quality. But let's break it down to 3 different locations: the prime locations, the city townships, and the outskirts. I don't know the particular terms that you call it in your home country, but I'm sure it will be something closer to what I'm about to discuss here. So in defining what a prime area is, that would include places that are closest to the airport and having the top government officials' residences, including country embassies and where the very wealthy people live. In Ghana, these top-notch communities would include Cantonment and East Legon, and that would include some of the most expensive real estate communities and flats, such as Eden Heights, the Gallery, and so forth. In Kenya, that would be Parklands and Westlands, where they have estates such as Runda Estate and Karen Estate. In Nigeria, you have Asokoro and Maitama, which has estates Sun City and Hall 7. And South Africa will be Sandton and Rosebank. So there is a point to compare here, looking at the most prime locations that the most wealthy people would live in. But in addition to these places mentioned are individual homes and properties that are also selling at exorbitant prices in all of these countries. The price comparison to some extent is mind-blowing, but at the same time I can understand, because some of these areas are particularly built with the top 1% of the richest people in that country in mind. We are looking at where the richest people among the rich would want to live, so their prices are not cheap. But at this point, we are looking at prime areas where there are flats that we can actually compare. And let me give you a few numbers here. So we would have a 1-bedroom apartment in Ghana, which is no more than 110 square meters, selling for no less than $85,000. So I looked at similar places in Kenya, in Nigeria, and South Africa, and how much they were selling. And the difference was just ridiculous. For instance, in Kenya, a similar 1-bedroom apartment in such a prime location would be selling for $75,000. In Nigeria, the same thing would be selling for $72,000. And in South Africa, the same thing will be selling for $72,000 as well. So what would explain why the prices in Ghana are so expensive? Let's move down further to see what the other comparisons are. Now we look down to where we have actual homes and not apartments like in the first one that I gave. A 2-bedroom home in Ghana will have an average price of about $110,000. Whereas similar thing in Kenya will have $70,000. Same thing in Nigeria will have about $72,000. And the same thing in South Africa will have about $79,000. Again, my question is, what explains why prices in Ghana are so exorbitant? Let's continue. And I'm not even concerning myself with the 3-bedroom houses. Those ones, I'll do them separately in a different episode. But if you move farther away from the main cities, sort of from 5 kilometers to 10 kilometers away from the main city center, prices also become a little tricky. Let me give you the numbers here. In Ghana, such places with 3-bedroom house will be selling for the cheapest at $60,000. And then the same thing in Kenya will be $52,000. Similar thing in Nigeria is $50,000. And the same thing in South Africa is going for $52,000. Again, prices in Ghana is still expensive. Now, on the third level, where you have places farther from the city, from 20 kilometers to 50 kilometers from where the city center is actually located, the prices are still confusing. Let me give you the numbers here again. Average prices of a 3-bedroom house in such a location in Ghana will cost $50,000. Similar thing in Kenya, costs as low as $38,000. In Nigeria is $32,000. In South Africa is $32,000. So at every stage, Ghanaian real estate prices are higher than what you have in their counterparts. What would explain the difference in why all these 3 other countries have similar price ranges, and then Ghana gives a certain gap? What is causing this huge rise in real estate prices in Ghana? And I found the answer. I'm comparing prices of goods and services in all these 4 countries, and it's totally clear that the cost of cement, the cost of iron rods, the cost of rocks, the cost of whatever material is used in building is more expensive in Ghana compared to these 3 other African countries. So definitely the prices of houses in Ghana would be expensive. But ignorantly, people will buy real estate properties and think that is all to it. That is actually not all to it. In most scenarios, when you buy a real estate property, there is a yearly maintenance charges that you have to incorporate into how much money you are spending on that property you bought. And there are places in Ghana where you have to spend about $1,000 per year. Now, I don't know the figures in Kenya, in Nigeria, and in South Africa. If you know it, please leave it in the comment section below. Now, let's ask the real questions. As a young person working hard in order to get money to buy some of these properties and get a better life for yourself and your family, you know how much money you are earning. And by the way, I've done a particular podcast on income differences among some of these African countries, so you can take a look at it. You know how much money you are earning or income that you are bringing in whichever country you live in Africa. So let's look at it critically. Is this something that is going to be feasible for you in the next 5 to 10 years? Because you have to put all this into consideration. From now till when you become 45 or 50 years old, that will be the time when you have the strength, the ability to do much for yourself. So by that time, is it likely that you are going to be able to have enough to purchase some of these real estate properties? Because if your answer is no, then I have an alternative for you. And this alternative is the one particular way that most Ghanaians are very accustomed to, where we build our own homes by ourselves. You literally have to go and buy your own piece of land, develop it into whatever structure that you want, and then have your own home. And this will have to be outside of any bank. You have to actually work, save up money, and be doing it gradually at your own pace. And I'm doing this in this episode because quite a number of people have wasted a lot of time. They have wasted so many years of their life paying rent every year, and they never started any project on their own. I'm not saying pump all your money or your income into building a house. But what I'm saying is you have to have that in your plan. Perhaps you have to put aside a certain amount of your income or salary and be pushing it gradually until you are able to move into it. Because guess what? One day you are going to wake up and people will be celebrating your 50th birthday. And you ask yourself, how did you get here? And what have you achieved along that line? So in order not for you to make too many mistakes, real estate is an industry that you can go into, at least for yourself. So this is my advice to you. You don't have to wait till it's too late before you do something. And nowhere is far. There is an episode also that I did about buying lands. I think you have to see that episode as well, where I actually spoke about buying lands in a location where you may not like because of the distance, and you need to get this out of your head. Nowhere is far. If you continually say this place is far, that place is far, before you realize all those places are already occupied by other people and you have to move even further away. I remember a few years ago, I had these foreigners come in who were interested in buying some piece of property, and I took them to a certain location. When they got there, they were quite satisfied with where the place was, in spite of the unavailability of light and water. And their projection was that for the development trend that was occurring around the area, they had given it sort of 5 to 10 years in order to catch up with where I gave them. And it has already been 7 years, and today there is light there. Things change quickly. Your financial situation may not necessarily be the same moving forward. So if today you have some kind of financial ability, I suggest to you that you start developing something for yourself rather than waiting to do it later. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I hope I bless somebody with this piece of knowledge. Until I come your way again, it's bye-bye for now.